Now, Dennis, I want to start by playing you a clip of someone that I know you admire because I heard you say it in one of your fireside chats. Fox News' Tucker Carlson. Now, Tucker in this clip, just for context for viewers, he's comparing the US response in East Palestine in Ohio to the response as far as aid's concerned to Ukraine, as far as taxpayer dollars are concerned. He argues that actually Ohio hasn't received the same response after shipments of toxic waste were pouring out thanks to a train derailment. So we'll just watch this short clip and then I'll have you respond and give your position at the end of it, Dennis.
But nobody cares, and they know that in East Palestine. But the contrasts are becoming too sharp and obvious. The American border versus the Ukrainian border. One doesn't matter at all. In fact, it's racist. The other is so important we'll risk nuclear war to protect it. Aid to Zelensky, unaudited, God knows where it's going. Nobody seems to care. And aid to East Palestine. We just can't afford it. Unfortunately, the people you just are not Ukrainian, so Joe Biden is not interested enough to visit.
Dennis, what's your response to that? Do you agree that there is, a complete unbalance in the American response to domestic issues compared to international ones?
Well, I need to preface my response by noting how much I admire Tucker Carlson. The two of us spoke in Hungary. It was the last time we were together, and he's one of the few people that I make it my business to hear at least some of his broadcasts almost every day. And I'd like to add another thing. I have been well aware for much of my life that the only person that any of us agrees with all the time is ourselves. So if I am going to abandon someone, or if someone is going to abandon me because of a position that they don't agree with, we will have no allies, and we will lose to the terrible forces of evil, and they are forces of evil that wish to destroy Western civilization. Having said that, I don't agree with him on Ukraine. Moreover, it's so un-Tucker-like, in my opinion, and I say this again only with respect. He's done a PragerU video. I've been on his show. I just want to make this clear again. To point out East Palestine or anything in America vis-a-vis Ukraine, and there's a simple reason. Let us say the United States did nothing for Ukraine, nothing, just watched as Russia gobbled up a country. Would Joe Biden then have sent aid to this little town in Ohio? Of course not. They're completely unrelated. They're not. It's a non sequitur to raise it. The reason for the neglect of this Ohio town is not because we're in Ukraine. It's because the Democrats run the country, and they have no interest in an area that is overwhelmingly white and overwhelmingly Republican. And that's the issue. End of the issue. I think there's another argument that that needs to be made here. There is no war, certainly none that America has been in, but I think any country, no noble war even, whether World War I, World War II, Vietnam, which I believe was a noble effort, just as noble as Korea. By the way, I just need to note, the ignorance of the Korean War, I think, is deliberate, because it was so obviously moral and America won it. Although half of Korea went communist and is a hellhole now, every argument for the Korean War could have been made for the Vietnam War, and therefore I don't understand the dismissal of it as a non-moral war. In any event, it is just worth noting, every war, people have argued, we need this funding here at home. We can't afford to be involved in some other crisis or some other war. So I don't find that argument compelling either, because, as I said, it could have been made and was made by people who opposed America's involvement here in America in any given war. So between those and then the NATO argument, the notion that Putin invaded Ukraine because it was going to join NATO. First of all, it wasn't going to join NATO, to the best of my knowledge. There were people who wanted it, but there are plenty of people who would have opposed it, and it has to be unanimous in any event. I will tell you the most dispositive argument is not one I hear often made. If this is not a threat, the invasion of Ukraine, why do Sweden and Finland now want to join NATO? I would love somebody to respond. I would love Tucker to respond. Sweden and Finland have resolutely avoided joining NATO. Finland, in part because of its historical problems, it had a war with then the Soviet Union, or now Russia. But they understand that this is a very real threat that Putin is. I think China is the biggest threat, to be honest. I agree with Tucker on that, but that has nothing to do with this. This is a threat. And if it weren't, as I said, why would Sweden and Finland now ask to join NATO? So I'm sorry. Forgive me. I have one more argument, and it's the moral one. When you're the strongest country in the world, and I don't know if America will remain the strongest under the Democratic Party, which doesn't particularly care for American strength in any way, shape, or form, but we are the strongest country in the world, and that comes with moral responsibilities. You cannot watch smaller countries gobbled up by bad actors on a moral plane. As to the argument, well, they're corrupt, I am now going to say something I have never said, and I've been speaking publicly for a lot of years, and I could cry saying this, but I will say it because it's true. We're corrupt. The amount of corruption in the United States of American government today, I don't think it's much less, if at all, than Ukraine. We're under the Democrats, given the corruption of the CIA, the FBI, the CDC, the NIH, you name the acronym, it's corrupt in the United States. We are the last group to speak about don't aid corrupt governments.